Welcome to Beauty Flip. I'm Etika Shoni, where I flip the script every single week on what is our true beauty, where we find purpose and personal power. I do this with grounded wisdom, irreverent humor, and a no-nonsense call to live a life that actually matters. I'm not here to play small. Are you? So, today we're diving into a spicy little truth. Authenticity ain't the answer. Yep. It's been memed, monetized, and mantraed into a buzzword that barely scratches the surface of what it once meant. So, let's flip the script on authenticity.
Hi, my lovely little humans. Okay, we're gonna go a little bit deeper. So, in this crazy cool world where we're trying to figure out how to flip this script and ultimately create the beauty flip, where we are getting off of this playing field and stopping the mind fuck math, some of you probably did something like this. Okay, so I gotta stop. And you get your little book out there and you're starting to journal, write lots of notes. Figure this out. And then you say to me, I got it. I did a whole bunch of journaling. I read some other self-help books and I got it. I know what it is. I know. I need to be authentic. I'm going to be authentic. Yes. Now, some of you, it might have looked a little different. It might have looked like this. Okay. Well, this sounds like a very serious problem that we're having here. So let me just kind of take some notes about this. Okay, so first there's the playing field. Yeah, P-L-Y-I-N-G, playing field. And then there's the, mind. Fuck, I really hate that word, fuck, but it's her word. We'll say it, mind fuck math. I know. I've been contemplating a lot, and I believe that I need to become more myself. That's what she's coaching me to do, be more myself. I know I will be more authentic. That is who I'm going to be, more authentic. And for some of you, maybe it looked like this. You were like, ooh, wow, this is a doozy. Wow, okay. Wow, we really got to figure this out. Okay, she is saying that we are on some sort of playing field. Oh, and there is this mindfuck math and, ooh, wow. Ooh, I know. I am going to find the answer. It is to be more my genuine self. I will be more authentic. Okay, so all these are great. Some of you even might have just been like, wow. This is really, really deep, very deep. The mindfuck math, that is really like all my thoughts, really, really deep. I really think I have a new idea. It feels so fresh, so pure. I will be authentic. I will. Can we just let it all go? Because yes, all of us want to be genuine and authentic and be ourselves. And if it were literally that fucking easy, and excuse me for swearing, we'd all be doing it. We'd all be like, I think I don't want to walk through door number 1. I'm just going to go door number 2 because that's the authentic route. So I'm just going that way. It ain't that easy. And I'm going to explain why it ain't that easy. Okay. So I want you to picture your little boo-boo self. You kind of were like this when you were a little kid. A beautiful little, lovely little sponge, right? And there were ways in your world where things were given to your little sponge that maybe somebody else's sponge they didn't get. So maybe in your household, maybe the things that were valued were like, maybe it was reading like books and doing puzzles and being more academic or something. So you were given in your sponge lots of little, like, almost think of like it is like delicious little moisture drops dropping in, boo, 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 boo. And then you were considered and valued for when you said maybe smart things or read books or did a lot of studying. That's just one example. Another example, let's just throw a sponge over here. Boop, ba-doop, ba-doo. This sponge was actually a sponge that was considered to be like really valued for like maybe going out and doing adventurous things. So maybe you were that person who like rode motocross bikes and did all sorts of like cool things. Maybe you went like hiking out in the woods and backpacking and camping or you know, so then there's that, right? So that's your little authentic self. Now, if we're really going to kind of go maybe a little bit like I have a breakfast club moment here. Some of you were like trained to be athletes and others of you were maybe like trained, I know it sounds like a horrible word, but to like be a fighter. If you think of like the Judd Nelson character where like you're going to just like fight the world. And maybe some of you were trained to be like a little bit more Miss Prissy and only like take the finer quality of things. And maybe some of you were trained to ultimately just like sort of know that you're on your own. The point is, each and every single one of you are a sponge of some kind. You soaked up what the world gave you. You soaked it up. And here's the crazy thing about your little sponginess is basically science shows that from the time you are a little itty bitty baby to somewhere around 6 or 7 years old, that sponge isn't really questioning the world, is believing that this is the way the world is. Now I'm going to tell you something else. That doesn't necessarily change after you're 7. Now, there are those moments when we were all teenagers and we thought everyone was hypocritical and all of us were full of bullshit, certainly all the adults, right? So there's that. But the truth of the matter is your neural pathways are full of things that made you into who ultimately, I'm just going to list a couple of things, your parents, your schools, your teachers, your families, if you were in some way religious, whether it was, you know, going to a church, a synagogue, a mosque, these all literally started to form your perspective of the world, okay? So what is so hard about this is the truth is that you are more than your sponge. You are more than this. This is not who you are. It's not who I am. So when people start throwing around this crazy word authentic, which became very popular, I want to say like in the sort of 2000s, there was this thing where suddenly everyone, and I mean, it's a great word, but it has now become so useless and it has become so painfully obvious that people are not really on a journey of trying to figure out who they are, that they're really mostly kind of going back to sort of what someone taught them to be. And here's the thing, your parents, like maybe they're not the best people on the planet, maybe. I will give some of you really might actually even have pretty like bad parents. But the truth of the matter is one day when they were itty bitties, they too were a sponge. So they're basically little sponges telling you, another sponge, what to do. Like, hey, time to be a sponge. You're not a paper towel, you're a sponge. You're like, yay, I'm a sponge. I'm going to be a sponge. Now, the most obvious way that we could look at this, because some of you are like, no way, I think for myself. I don't let people tell me what to do. I'm like, okay, that's great. Well, then speak a language that you've never been taught before. You can't, because your neural pathways were filled with language. And so like if you were potentially born in America, then you most likely speak a version of English that is like American English. And then depending on where you were born, even in America, you might speak a certain accent, maybe an East Coast accent or a West Coast accent or a Southern accent. And then we can even break that down more. Where in the South are you born are many, many accents, as well as the East Coast, as well as the West Coast. Now, we sort of are getting a little bit off topic, but not really. I want you to get how concrete it is to just think about language and think about the words that you were taught and think about how day in and day out you sat around somebody or people and they spoke a language and your brain soaked it up. And then sooner or later, around 2 years old, you started speaking words and people started clapping for you and also sort of correcting you if you weren't saying things the right way, the certain way that they would pronounce it. This is your brain. So before you can tout and figure out like, hey, I want to be authentic, which is wonderful. I want you to be authentic. And truly, if all of us could be more authentic, we would find ourselves probably being more nourished. But what you're actually saying when you think you know what authenticity is you're saying, first and foremost, I want to be the sponge that I was given when I was a little kid. Now, some of you are like, no way. I'm not going to be the sponge. I'm not going to be what my mom and dad and my school told me. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be that. So some of you are like with a big little middle finger, like, meow, 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 meow. No, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be real.
So this is where I'm going to bring in another concept. So I want for those of you who are listening to think of a shiny little penny and think of the penny as heads up. So here I present my penny for those of you who are watching, right? So here we have our penny that is heads up. Now this is what I want you to get. This penny heads up is what would I say represents your parents, everything your parents taught you, or even the ways that way they were. So ultimately, there's a place in our life where we're like, oh my God, I love these aspects of my parents. Like maybe you as a family grew up and you like went camping and you loved camping, or maybe your parents were really good at math and you're like, I love math. And so you took those like shiny parts of your heads, the head side of your penny, the things that they taught you. But then there are things that your parents did, maybe they were mistakes, or maybe just by their personality or their perspective of the world, you're like, no, I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be that. And this is what we would call the opposite. And for those of you listening, I've now flipped my penny. And now we're looking at the heads of the tails of the penny. So in this opposite, there's many times where we don't even know, but we have a knee-jerk reaction of like, no, I'm not going to be that. And when we're like talking about this concept, when we're talking about why authentic can't work, we're talking about that often people don't really understand who their true nature is. And that's why you can't just like knee-jerk reaction in this one, but you do need to consciously dig in. And this is where we're going. So there's one more thing I need to say about this penny and why conscious digging is going to be important, is I want you to see, and for those of you who are listening right now, heads of the penny, tails of the penny. Now, what you need to know, it is ultimately the same coin, meaning it is the same thought system, the same perspective. It's just two opposite sides. And this is often where we as lovely little humans kind of end up. We're like, ooh, do I choose what my mom and dad, or kind of like how I was brought up, that's the heads, or do I choose the opposite? Because we don't know what else there is to choose out there. Maybe we have gradations between that, but we often end up kind of living our life on the same coin, i.e., you can't be really truly authentic because you don't even quite know who you are yet. So yes, conscious digging in is going to be really a key part of where we go on flipping our script and what is so cool about Beauty Flip. And my lovely lovelies, the other thing that is so important here is this is why I can't sit here and just be like, let's give you some beauty tips. Oh my God, I'm going to show you the greatest new ways to do beauty, because ultimately hair and makeup and clothing and all these things are actually just ways we represent ourselves in the world. They are just ways to speak a language. So if I started teaching you hair, skin, makeup, beauty, clothing, what you would do is you would put it on top of your little shiny penny. And ultimately, that's not going to help you, if you remember how we started this whole thing, get off of the uneven playing field. Not going to happen, not. It's, if anything, going to just sort of like lock you into a place on the uneven playing field. Not that I'm saying don't wear makeup, don't do your hair. Please go for it. Wear beautiful clothes, all of that. But no, no, no. That is not what's going to move you in any way closer to who you truly want to be and what makes you on fire.
To some degree or another, you were a little sponge, little spongy Susie, spongy Steve, spongy from the time you were a little bitty baby to the time you were easily 7, and you just soaked up the world. It's brilliant how your brain works. They actually say it has like this, they call it a hypnagogic state, and we just basically are soaking it up, and it's actually in its like neuroplasticity state. It's kind of cool because it's like really heightened learning, and you're just like drinking it all in. So there's a part of you that drank in a lot of things and kind of turned you into something that is like this little spongy sponge. And then there are parts of you that said, I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like my family. I don't want to be like, and maybe it's like certain parts. I'm not going to be like them when the way that they went and did, how they did their career. I'm not going to be like them the way they did their marriage. I'm not going to be like them the way that they went about their career. I am going to be, and all you know is the opposite. You just know the opposite. And that is the problem with authenticity, is that ultimately we still don't quite know how to get off of this playing field, because your parents were on the playing field and they said, hey, little kid, we're going to show you how to play on the playing field. They didn't say it that way because they don't even know that they're on a playing field, but they too were sitting here going, Lordy, 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 we got to give you the rules so that hopefully you get somewhere along, that you survive, that you maybe even thrive, that you actually win. We, just like biologically want the best for our kids. We want them to make it, right? So, yeah, I know right now a lot of you are probably like, okay, so what the fuck is it then? What if it, like you're telling me all I do is math all day long, or as the British people say, maths, the mindfuck maths. You're saying I'm on a playing field and I don't even have the right shoes, and I'm not even like wearing the right, outfit. And it's like, I'm literally like at the bottom of the field and I'm sucking wind while everyone else is in front of me. And you're telling me that's not it. And now you're telling me when I decided that I want to be authentic, you're telling me that's not even it. Yes, that's not even it. Because there's something far more profound. And this does take the willingness to step into a place of curiosity. So this is one of the first things, to be curious about yourself. Be curious, because like 9 times out of 10, what you did today, you did yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that, because your lovely little brain has a system for how it wants to like make sure you survive and make it through this world. And so your brain is like just basically saying, okay, let's serve up like for breakfast, we're going to, or for waking up, we're going to do that same thing we did yesterday. We'll have one alarm go off. They'll put it on sleep mode, and then they'll wake up maybe 10 minutes late. Then they'll be hurried because that's what they like to do. So we'll be hurried. And then maybe they'll forget something at home because that's what they tend to do. Then they'll have an excuse for how they forgot the thing because that's what they do. And then we'll also like be angry in traffic as we're riding to work, to school, to whatever, yelling at cars, because that's what we like to do. And if you really just kind of look at your life over and 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 over again, it is the Groundhog Day movie. You yourself have been casted in the Groundhog Day. You are literally hitting that clock and you are trying to save the guy from falling in the puddle. You're trying to save the homeless man from dying at the end of the night. You're trying to fall in love with the girl. You're trying to get out of this crazy ass loop. But the thing is, you haven't even decided that you're curious. So curious is the first thing I invite you to. Curious, where you just maybe even stop. Or curious, where maybe you ask yourself one more question than you've never asked before. So maybe you're a journaler, or maybe you read books, whatever. Maybe you like to get on Instagram. Maybe you don't do the things that you do, and you try something new. And you just kind of see if you flip a tiny script for one day, for 1 hour, what could happen? Like a crazy science experience. Maybe something new will come to you. Maybe there is more to you than you've ever even known. So what if you asked yourself, what else is in there? Or, and this is something where a lot of people get tripped up, what if I pushed myself into my discomfort? What if I allow myself to feel uncomfortable and try something that I don't maybe even understand or feel good at? Because when we are in our quote unquote authenticity and we're trying to be more authentic, often we go to our comfort zone and we just shut everything down and we sort of close the doors and batten the hatches, and we just don't. But the very first thing I want you to try to do is to actually try to be curious, just to see if there's something that you have never done before that maybe might be something you like. Now, here's the crazy thing. When you do it, your brain might say, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. Your brain does not like discomfort. There's this part of you, it is like trying to sort of like keep you alive. So what it likes to do is kind of keep everything just as it is. So for people who maybe like feel shy, maybe this is where you introduce yourself to a somewhat reasonable stranger and talk to them, maybe for a minute, maybe for longer. Maybe for those of you who are talkers, maybe this is where you just don't talk and actually listen. And maybe if you do talk, you only ask questions of the person around you. I want you to imagine that you only have an inkling of an idea of who you are or what you are capable of doing and what the true, absolute cool aspects of you are and what makes you beautiful. I see people sometimes like almost surprise themselves, maybe because they're on one of my retreats, or maybe they're like in a coaching session and they stumble upon a truth that they didn't even know about themselves. And these are ways that I just want to be like inviting you. Just be curious. Just try a new thing. Just give yourself one hour of something new, something that feels uncomfortable, something that you don't know. And then have someone who you really trust to give you an honest, truthful opinion of what that was like. Because here's the thing. Sometimes your besties, they're your besties because they're going to back you up 5,000 times and they're going to say, oh man, no, that was really truly the best sponge I've ever seen you being. Or some of your besties are going to say, yeah, you killed that. You were so the opposite of your parents. Way to go. You rocked that. So you got to be careful here. The person who you want that feedback from needs to be someone who actually potentially sees the possibilities for you. Sees that there's something more. Because there is, I'm promising you, there's something more, there's something cool. You are amazing beyond anything you can imagine. You are beautiful. So flip the script, be curious, try something new, and I'll see you the next time.
Hey, all you beautiful humans. Next week, we're going to find out, did curiosity actually kill the cat? Or did it actually disrupt the default settings that put you back on that uneven playing field over and over again? Can't wait to find out. So curious.